Start recording. Okay. All right. So let's get started. I'm going to be very brief, but I do want to mention a couple of things before we get started today. So this is our second lab here in geomatics, and this is our first lab where we're actually going to get outside and do some horizontal distance measurement. I'll tell you the main purpose of the lab, beyond just getting outside and learning lab procedures, is to get familiar with the equipment. This will be the first time that many of you are using a lot of this equipment, and so I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So the first thing I want to discuss is lab safety. So again, you are going to get your assigned vests today. They're going to look like this. I want everybody wearing your vest when you're outside, period. Okay? Nobody without a vest outside. Okay? When you're crossing 3rd Avenue, cross it legally. Push the button. Wait for the crosswalk, the pedestrian button on the wait for it to say walk before you can go. We're not in that much of a hurry. We are going to be using some surveying equipment with some pinch points. And so what that means, just watch your fingers. Tripods as an example. The cases, they just have pinch points, just to make sure you watch yourself out for that. The tripods themselves and the prism poles have these spikes on the bottom for being inserted into the ground, so they can be a little sharp. Just make sure you're watching that. Just make sure not to bump the spikes when you're carrying. And another thing is, if somebody's walking with the equipment, make sure that you're avoiding, the spikes around people. Don't throw anything, please. Don't do that. Don't throw the prism pole. Don't throw the pinning stakes. Just don't do that. If we have a particularly sunny day, I'm going to advise you to wear sunscreen. I don't really think that's going to be totally necessary today, since it's a little overcast and most of what we're surveying is in the shade, but we have sunscreen available if you need it. If we have like some very light drizzle, we will probably, like of rain, we will probably still go ahead and survey, but if we have lightning, we're not doing it. We're going inside, okay? So just make sure we're all on the same page on that. Any questions about that? Okay. Some general guidelines about the labs. So I want everybody using the equipment assigned to your group number. So group 1, I want you using the equipment that is indicated as set number 1. So we're going to, for example, you're going to use a total station. It's going to have like Roman numeral 1 on it. For example, this is the leveling rod that I brought in class today, and you can see number 1. So who's my group 1, by the way? We're going to use that today, so you can hold that. All right. Okay. Let's talk about field notes. Okay. So every group is going to record your data that you collect in the field inside a field note book. I'm going to go ahead and mention. I'm going to borrow this real quick. Okay. So there's sort of 2 types of field notebooks that you can use in land surveying. One of them is kind of like this, that's a bound notebook, and one of them is like this, that's sort of like a 3-ring binder. I want to use the 3-ring binders this semester because what you're going to do, so the way this lab is going to work today is, thank you. So the way this lab is going to work today is you're going to go out, you're going to collect some data, you're going to come back here, do some computations, and you're going to turn in your computations and your field notes. So you can just take the pages out and staple it all and turn everything in together all at once. So I know that when I used to work as a surveyor, that's actually what we would do, is we would take the notes and stick them with each job so that we would all have our field notes a reference per job. Okay, so all the original data that you collect needs to be collected in your logbook. There is one exception, I'll say one exception to that, but when we do our topo lab, you're going to be collecting a lot of data, and we'll use the internal storage device on the total station for that. But the logbooks need to stay here when not in use. There are going to be some lab reports, today's not one of them, but there's going to be some lab reports where like you collect the data as a group, but the lab report you submit yourself. So you might need to snap the data. Like if there's 3 of you in a group, just make sure you take some snapshots of the data for doing your report. Again, won't really matter today. If the lab involves the use of total stations, so total stations are powered by battery. I've got a box in the survey locker that has all the batteries. They're all already charged, but we'll need to charge them from week to week. So don't store the batteries in the box. Take them. There's a box that says like charged batteries and used batteries. So once you're done with the lab, put the used batteries in there. We'll have them charged for the next week when we need them. One thing I want to make sure that we're all clear about, this is a learning environment, okay? So when you're out in the field, usually one person's going to be the rod person, one person's going to be running the instrument, one person's going to be taking the notes. But in here, this is a learning environment, so I want everybody rotating duties, okay? I don't want one person just running the instrument the whole time and one person taking notes. I want you all exchanging that because I want everybody to get some experience, okay? Again, all the data is collected as a group, but when we have extended lab reports, today's not one of them, but when we have extended lab reports, you're going to be responsible for your own. If you ever have any questions as a group, I want to try and develop a little bit of self-sufficiency, so try and read the handout before and discuss it as a group. If you have any questions that you as a group cannot figure out, then come see me. But I'll be out there to help guide you through some things. So here's the focus of today's assignment. So out here between Morrow and Science, there are 7 groups. So there are 7 sets of nails. Okay. So first off, I've got these lab handouts here. I want everybody. There's enough handouts for one for every person, not one for every group. But if you'll notice, so here on the front, Group 1 is orange, Group 2 is green, Group 3 is blue. So let's say you're in Group 3. So there is a pair of nails in the ground with blue flagging on. Right? So if you're in Group 3, you have the blue nails. Okay? So there's orange, green, blue, yellow, white, pink, and red. Okay? And so the idea is to try and determine the distance between those nails using various sets of equipment. So pacing it, eyeballing it, total station, a whole 9 yards. So the 5 methods that we're going to use are visual estimation, pacing, taping, the stadia using the auto level, and the total station. Okay? What we're going to do is everybody's going to get one of these. Everybody's going to have one of these, and it literally walks you through step by step how to set up the equipment. I'm going to be out there to walk you through like how to set up the total station, how to set up the levels so that you're not just totally reading here. I'll be out there. If you have any questions, let me know. But the only other thing I'll mention with this lab is this is probably, of the labs this semester, this is the one where there's actually a lot of stuff that you have to carry because we're sort of carrying all of it. So what we'll do is we'll go into the survey locker, like one group at a time. Everybody will collect everything, and there we go. The survey locker's a little narrow, so I want to make sure we're doing that in an orderly fashion. And then I also have a Sharpie, okay? You're going to collect a vest, put your initials in the vest, and that will be your vest this semester, okay? And at the end of the semester, it's yours from here on out, okay? I know you're excited about it. Yeah. That's one for the YouTube recording.
Demonetized.
Demonetized. Like, comment, subscribe. This is brought to you by Raid Shadow Legends. All right. I love my job. Okay. All right. Any questions? All right. Okay. So I'm going to stop the recording and we're going to get outside. Man. I'm so upset I didn't show this. Okay. Field notes. I do want to mention the field notes a little bit. I'm not going to get too worked up over the format of your field notes in this lab, but there are a couple things I do want to mention about them. So I have here a set of field notes that I've prepared for this lab. Now don't take the data that's in the field notes as anything to write home about because it's just sort of dummy data. But I do want to mention a couple things about field notes. So whenever you perform a land survey, your field notes are considered a legal document. Okay, so a couple things about that. Number one, do not erase anything in your field notes. And I mean anything. Okay, if you make a mistake, that's no big deal. Cross it out. Rewrite it, but do not erase anything. Okay, but there are going to be some things that I ask of you in your field notes that might seem a little like wonky. Like, why am I asking for the date, the weather, the time? Who's in the group? Because the reason is that's what you have to do whenever you're preparing, field notes, in the real world. Because, as again, these are legal documents. If you're performing a land survey, let's say of a piece of property, and you're marking a boundary, and there's a lawsuit, you're the surveyor, you get called in to testify. This is your record. Okay, so this is incredibly important that it's maintained properly. So what I have here for this field notes guide is just the handouts that you all are going to grab here, they all have everything that needs to go in here. So there's not really anything here that's not in the handout, But you'll notice you can see the conditions, what's the purpose of the lab, the people are in the group. So I just said me, Dr. Wade, Dr. Yoon. Here's the equipment that we're using. It is typical in field notes to include some rudimentary sketch of what we're doing. So I just said, like here's 3rd Avenue, here's Morrow and Science, and here's the points that we're measuring. Again, nothing nothing super accurate. And you can see the tables that I'm including. These tables are actually, there's nothing here in these tables that isn't in the handouts. But again, I want you to take the assignment after the lab and your field notes, and that's what you're going to turn into me at the very end. Right. Any questions?
Is this the one you said that wasn't going to take like all 3 hours?
I don't think it will. There is some writing that you need to do after. But the point is, I'm not going to have an assignment for you for this lab after this. Like when you turn this in, you're done. So there are a couple that might. I don't think this is one of them, but it is your first lab with the equipment, so we'll play by ear. Sound good? Okay. All right. So let me stop the recording.